I want to say thank you for the evaluation of the bill and the opportunity to be able to present to committee. In 2015, in the May revision, as everyone knows, the governor announced the closure of the remaining 3 developmental centers in California. This means over the next 5 years, about 1,000 developmental center residents, the most medically fragile in the system, will be transitioning back into the community with no developmental center to be able to fall back on if the community placement fails. Very simple, SB 982 requires a longitudinal quality of life study to monitor and evaluate the process and ensure that our state follows through with this commitment to be able to provide appropriate services to developmentally disabled Californians. In 2009, as part of the recession-era budget cuts, the section of statute that required a comprehensive study was deleted and replaced by language directing the department to complete a single survey. So it's basically those who are first out of the center and first into the community receive the tracking. There is therefore no current way to track specific developmental center movers. The Legislative Analyst Office agrees that we need greater monitoring. It actually was in their report. And the state is currently over 50% behind in its goal of moving residents into the community from the Sonoma Developmental Center, which is in the district that proudly represent. And we are facing substantial increased financial pressures due to the CMS withdrawing funds, which was about a $24.6 million hit that we all saw this year. SB 982 will help the transition by assuring families and their loved ones that their loved ones are receiving the care. And given the fact that there will no longer be any developmental centers to fall back on if residents have challenges in the communities, it's important that we actually move forward with a longitudinal study. Madam Chair, I'll wrap this up and say that we're grateful that Catherine Blakemore is here today from Disability Rights to provide testimony. And again, I really apologize about keeping all of you waiting.
No, thank you. Excuse me. I am not sure. Would you like to ask a question? Let's hear from the rest of those in support. Just a budgetary question. And in support.
Yes, Catherine Blakemore, Disability Rights California. This bill continues California's strong tradition of independently looking at the quality of life for movers into the community. We support doing the closure of developmental centers in the right way and ensuring that every person ends up in a safe environment. The bill also requires that the contract make specific recommendations, which will then be shared with the legislature, among others, as a way of providing some additional oversight. So we support the bill. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Kobe Pizzari with California Association of Psychiatric Technicians. As we kind of close in on the closure of Sonoma Developmental Center, I think it's very important that we see the services that are being provided in the community with the transition and the movers and have a report back so that we can learn lessons with our future developmental center closers. So I think it's very important that the legislature receives that information back. So we support the bill.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and other members, Paul Yoder on behalf of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. Unfortunately, not all closures have gone the same way, and that's really underscores the importance of this bill is to make sure that you're actually tracking what's happening with the SDC closure. So urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others in support?
Maria Garcia with Greenberg-Traurig on behalf of the Parent Hospital Association. Want to thank the author and his staff for their great work and commitment to the issue. So we absolutely support.
Thank you. Others in support? Anyone speaking in opposition today? Seeing none, back to the committee for questions. Ms. Grove?
Thank you. You said that there was dire financial issues because the $24 million was taken from the federal government because of the abuses in the Sonoma facility, but the state budget the governor just signed replenished that $24.6 million. Is that correct or not correct?
Oh, no, that's correct.
Oh, okay.
But what the bill does, as individuals, I wouldn't characterize them as abuses. What we know is it was horribly unfortunate that an oxygen bottle was not refilled. The individual was not on that specific oxygen bottle at the time. But what this would do is, as individuals transfer out and into the community setting, would follow them, if you will, to ensure success. And what we've seen...
I'm supporting the bill. I was just questioning your comment that, that money was taken from you, but it wasn't. It was taken from the feds. The feds took it because of the abuses in the system, the abuses in Sonoma that were uncovered. But it's going back to you or the developmental center through the state budget process.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So that was it.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
So any other questions? Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. Would you like to close?
I would ask for your aye vote, and again, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. Thank you.
That's okay. I think everyone's waiting somewhere. It's on time this afternoon. Thank you. We'll take the roll.
Bonilla.
Aye.
Bonilla, aye. Grove.
I should say it's a due
Grove, aye.
process.
Arambula. Arambula, aye. Lopez. Mainshine. Stone. Cooley. Cooley, aye. And the bill is out.
Bill is out. Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
We have one final bill. We're waiting for Senator Jackson for SB 1336.
Are you coming back?
I don't, unless it's like in the next 30 minutes. Maybe the next 30 minutes.
Well, hopefully.
Maybe we have to go someplace for about 30
Oh,
minutes. and then
no,
come
we
back.
will be done by then, I hope. Even managed to keep Ms. Grove for this testimony. Our last bill, SB 1336, Senator Jackson. Thank you so much. We know that you were chairing another committee.
Yes, we're hearing a very low-key bill on the BDS movement.
Well, welcome and thank you. This is item number 8.
Okay.
And do you accept the committee amendments to begin with? I think you do.
Good afternoon. If you could give me just a second.
Absolutely. It can be like interplanetary travel sometimes when we go from one committee to another.
This is my test. Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you very much. Now that I recall
Know where you
what
are.
this bill is.
Where you are?
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to present this measure before you today. And first, I would like to accept the committee's recommended amendments.
Thank you.
They reflect what has been a lengthy and at times difficult but productive discussion among individuals and groups who share one common goal, and I think we all share this goal, to improve the outcomes of children who are in foster care. These are our most vulnerable, our neediest, our most challenged, and among our most important youth, as they find themselves frequently in predicaments that are not of their making, and difficulties to overcome that are sometimes appearing to be insurmountable. So the amendments reflect a significant amount of work that help address how current law ensures relatives their fair and due consideration by counties when they come forward for placement of a child in foster care. We have as a goal the belief, and I think it's supported by all sorts of data, that placing a child whenever possible with a relative is a better indicator of the potential for success than any other placement. Now, that's as a general rule, and of course, like everything else, there are always exceptions to the rule. But this is a bill with a goal of improving efforts to identify and prioritize relatives for placement of children in foster care, with the intent to reduce the time they spend in foster care and help improve their chances of being reunified with their parents or reach permanency with a relative. The bill does this in two important ways. First, it would codify the family finding rule of court, which requires a dependency court judge to make a ruling of whether a county child welfare agency has exercised its due diligence in searching for known relatives when a child is removed from the custody of his or her family due to abuse or neglect. And secondly, it affirms how and when preferential consideration of relatives is considered by a county child welfare agency in order to ensure that children in foster care are provided every opportunity of being placed with a relative caregiver when it is in their best interests. Best interests of the child. This is a clear directive, but it is one that is frequently very difficult to ascertain. I want to acknowledge both CWDA and SEIU in their opposition to the bill as in print, and even though they are, I believe, still in opposition to one remaining clause in the recommended amendments, I believe the amendments go a long way to addressing their concerns and reflect a good compromise. One that will guarantee that relatives are entitled to consideration by counties while balancing the workload and resource pressures counties face on a daily basis today. With that, I thank you for your consideration, your assistance, and hopefully your support, and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much. In support, do we have those who would like to speak?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Christina Riel, and I'm with the Children's Advocacy Institute at the University of San Diego School of Law. I'd like to thank Senator Jackson for authoring this bill. She's described it quite nicely. As she mentioned, federal and state law does prefer the placement of children in foster care with their relatives, and this placement stems from an understanding that the consistency, stability, and preservation of family connections that can occur when children are placed in a relative caregiver's home provide a host of additional benefits to children who find themselves removed from their parents' care. A study of children's well-being when placed with relatives have shown that these children experience a significant reduction in their time in foster care, and they're far more likely to remain in the same home throughout their entire stay in foster care. And these results are exactly what we want out of our foster care system. We want children removed from their parents' homes for the shortest time possible. And if they can't safely return to their parents' custody, we want children to be able to maintain close ties with their biological family. These goals are best accomplished through the early identification of family members who may be able to act as caregivers for children.
Thank you. Before we lose a member, I'm so sorry for the interruption
fine.
here, but
Thank you.
I wanted to recognize Vice Chair Shannon Grove, Assemblymember Grove, who's served on the committee, and this is our last hearing, and she has served at least 5 of her 6 years on very, very well and ably on the Human Services Committee, and I'm sure everyone who comes before the committee week after week appreciates your service all of these years and your expertise in the area of human services. So I just wanted to say that before she left, as it's our last hearing short of a special one being called in August. So thank you, Ms. Grove.
Sorry for the
Yeah, sorry. And she has to leave, so please
you.
continue.
Thank you. Well, this bill will provide uniformity across the state regarding the steps that need to be taken to assure that relatives are contacted and identified as early as possible, which will increase the likelihood that children removed from their parents are able to be placed with relatives. In addition, SB 1336 will help clarify consideration of relatives for potential placement. We've worked closely with an attorney in Stanislaus County whose client wasn't even assessed for placement of her grandchildren who had previously lived with her, simply because at that time the grandmother had come forward after a specified date. But this bill will stop that sort of arbitrary practice by requiring that a child's best interest be considered whenever a relative steps forward to request placement. And it's with these considerations in mind that we request your aye vote on SB 1336.
Thank you very much. In support.
Yes. Hello. My name is Yolanda Pineda, and I'm with the Children's Law Center of California. And I will be brief. I'll just add that this legislation will help prevent children from languishing in foster care when there is a relative willing to provide a safe and stable home, and that it ensures that the court and all of the parties are notified when such relatives come forward. The relative assessment does not mean that the child will automatically be moved to a new placement. It means that the court, with the social worker's inputs, will make that determination. And I urge your aye vote today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others in support? Please state your name and organization. Those in opposition, please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Kathy Senderling with the County Welfare Directors Association. I'm actually going to yield the bulk of my time to one of our members who's here to testify on the bill, but wanted to just make 2 quick points. One is that we do have an opposed unless amended position on the bill. As the senator alluded to, we are not able to remove our opposition based on the amendments and the analysis. There is one very critical difference that seems minor. It's a phrase in the way that the language is worded related to, in the language in your analysis, whether the relative may meet the best interest of the child, or in our proposed language, whether it is in the best interest of the child to assess and consider the relative for placement. It seems minor, but it's of great concern to us because the word may is so broad that we interpret it as really having no practical difference from the bill as in print, unless we know something very bad about that relative when they walk in the door. We're essentially going to have to assess everyone, which is what we were trying to work toward avoiding with this idea of the best interest approach initially. As well, there's no consideration then of the other factors that may be relevant in a case. As you know from your experience in the counties, cases are so different every case, and what is relevant in one case may not be relevant in the other. We'd like to give the social worker the opportunity to take into consideration the relevant factors, provide the reasoning to the court, and allow for the court to determine if the court agrees or if the court would like to have a hearing and compel the assessment. Before I introduce, I'll just say we believe we have come a long way in these. As well, we acknowledge the senator has as well. This just does not go far enough on that one point to ensure that we're able to do the true best interest determination. Barry Zimmerman is the director of the Human Services Agency in the county of Ventura. He's also the immediate past president of CWDA and will provide the on-the-ground perspective for you to consider as you think about this legislation today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Chair. I'm Barry Zimmerman, Director of the Human Services Agency for the county, and right now we're in opposition to the bill unless amended. And I'd like to speak just briefly on how I see the current language and what impacts it has on our efforts to implement the continuum care reform, as well as the resource family approval process, which we are an early adopter of. We are one of 11 counties who have implemented and is running the Resource Family Approval Process, or RFA for short, which transforms the process on how we assess and place children into care. It requires an in-depth psychosocial assessment as well as training for the caregivers prior to approval and placement. In addition, the RFA process and much of our resources are dedicated to significant family finding activities up front to find the best and appropriate placement for a child. We work with each identified relative and figure out what is in the best interest of the child and where this child should live. Hopefully, the approval of the relative will provide the stability and healing environment that allows the family to reunite. However, this placement may be the child's permanent placement if reunification efforts fail. There are a lot of factors to be considered in a placement decision, with the primary focus on what is best for that child. In Ventura, we use a teaming approach on a number of cases to make decisions and case plans for the child and the family. This process includes input from parents, relatives, and other concerned individuals. In the future, with the implementation of CCR, all significant decisions will be done, and all cases will be with the input of a child-family team. Safety, stability, and well-being of the child are our primary goals and is critical in the lives of these children. This bill does concern me with some of the language and how it would impact the current efforts under RFA. Essentially, it says that a stable home placement is never finalized. We would be required to continually react and assess relatives as they become known to us, even if they've engaged much later in the process, even a year or more. This disruption could significantly re-traumatize the child. Stability is critical for these children who find themselves, due to no fault of their own, in such unstable situations. No matter what the circumstances are, no matter what work we have done up front with the child and the family team in finding a stable, healthy placement, no matter how well the child is thriving, even if the child is placed with a loving, suitable relative, the language you have here in the analysis says it's all about the new relative and whether they may meet the best interests of the child. The language is too broad and nonspecific and will not achieve the intended goal, which we all have, to place with relatives. Mm-hmm. You need to understand how demoralizing, scary, and upset it is to have to assess and reassess the current placement every time a new relative comes forward. The rest of this code section talks about asking a child and parent their wishes, which we already do today and are required to do under CCR. We will have to literally speak to the child and alert them and the caregiver about every new relative and ask them, do you want to live with them? How about them?
Okay.
Our involvement in the lives of these children is because they have been abused and oftentimes terribly.
Mm-hmm.
Many have difficulty in forming secure attachments and bonding relationships that are not quickly and easily cured. Now being required to constantly talk about with these children about change and having us, who are trying to give some normalcy to their lives, now perpetuate the worry that change is inevitable.
Okay.
So the question is really how to create an environment that is stable and in the best interest of the child. In addition, I could only imagine that acquiring and securing new caregivers to this system may be harder, even through the RFA process, which is very difficult and time-consuming, sometimes taking up to 6 months to get someone approved through the process.
I'm afraid you've used up the entire opposition time.
Thank you.
So name an organization in opposition at this point.
Can I make a statement? Or
yeah.
I'll try to be brief.
Very brief.
Tia Orr, on behalf of the Service Employees International Union, we're in representation of over 10,000 social workers on the ground. I would like to agree with the author of the bill. I do think that we've come a long way. There is one sticky point that remains. There's a couple of issues that we have with that. One is the policy that I think you've heard him describe. Another is a workload concern. This bill has not been keyed fiscal. This is going to have to be done without Prop 30, right? We're going to have to do this without any additional funding for our social workers, many of which are carrying cases up to 50 per worker. Does it make sense, I asked the committee, to do an assessment on every relative that comes in, even if the child is, for instance, placed with its aunt, and grandma comes in from Texas 3 months before they're going back with their parents? They're in reunification planning. They're going to team building. Does it make sense for the social worker to spend months, maybe days, hours on assessing a family member when you know the best interest of the child is met with them staying at the home they're in and trying to reunify the family as you have planned? So we have very serious concerns with it and don't think our social workers can do it under existing, under the funding that they have today.
Thank you. In opposition.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Dorothy Holzman with the California State Association of Counties, oppose unless amended for the reasons previously stated. Thank you.
In opposition.
Libby Sanchez on behalf of Laborers Local 777 and 792, also in opposition for the reasons previously stated.
Grace Childs with the Urban Counties of California, also oppose unless amended for the reasons previously stated.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the committee and ask Senator Jackson if you'd like to respond to the opposition.
Sure. As I understand it, the concern about the use of what may be in the best interest of the child was language that the committee had suggested as compared to what is in the best interest. And so the word may has suddenly become a critical concern. I would defer to the committee. It was the committee's suggested amendment to put may. Again, it's a little frustrating because we've given about 95% of the way here. I am concerned, too, that our social workers are totally overwhelmed. That being said, and I agree that we need to provide more for them, Again, that being said, that it is the responsibility, and there's case law on this that says that the goal is to try to find a family member, and I think the construction that we have given this bill and the ability of if the social workers and the department determines that that this does not serve the child and the family member wishes to contest that, they have the right to go to court to seek a review. And again, I think that alleviates some of the responsibility from these various departments while protecting the child and the family's right should the court determine that this is the appropriate avenue to take. The word may, I'm not wedded to. If the committee, in its infinite wisdom, decides that we should remove that, and put it so that it's in the best interest of the child as compared to may be. Again, that's a suggestion that comes from the committee. I think we have, compromised this bill to a point where, it might require a little bit more work by the various agencies. It might require that they tweak things a little bit. But if the goal is to do what's in the best interest of the child, I think that's what we've done here. And again, defer to you on that, the phrase may, which I'm happy to remove, if that would assist us in getting to a point where we can get everybody on the same page.
Yes, and for clarification, I think that was worked out with the staff on the Judiciary Committee, and we are now trying to work with them and in terms of making that happen. It didn't originate in our committee.
Very well. Then it didn't originate in my office either. So I'm not wedded to it, and if that brings about support finally from all the work that we've done, the meetings we've had, the efforts we've made, I'm certainly happy to do that.
Uh-huh. Other questions from committee members? Okay.
Thank you, Hunt. Thank you, Senator Jackson, for bringing this up. As a frontline worker, I was always concerned about the phrase being overworked. And I'd like for you to address that a little bit to help my fears that we are overburdening a system that is working awfully hard today. And just want to get a sense from you about how this would affect social workers today.
Well, I suspect that the social workers know this better than I, but what I can tell you is that I had occasion to work in this system over the last 30 years as a practicing attorney who found myself occasionally in dependency court and hated every minute of it because there is an enormous amount of work and responsibility that we give to the social workers and don't necessarily give them all the backup that's necessary. But that being said, we are trying to do what's in the best interest of these children, and I believe that this is one of those tools to get us there. Should we try to fight harder to get to be more persuasive when it comes to the budget in terms of getting the assistance that the social workers need? Absolutely. No question about it. Does this then mean that we overburden, if you will, by having them do more? Or is this something where we ask that they try to emphasize and prioritize to meet the directives of the public policy that we issue here in the legislature? And I think at this point, because we know, and I don't think it's disputed, that having a relationship with a relative helps to the extent possible to achieve that positive outcome, and that we really do want to try to get there, and that this is one of the tools that should be used to help us address this problem. There is so much that is underserved and underfunded, and I think if we looked at the world that way, we wouldn't be doing much. But this is an attempt to prioritize this as to essentially put this back on the sort of the top of the list again, or at least in a place where we can accommodate those concerns, because they're legitimate. I absolutely believe whether it's dependency, I'll put a plug in now for dependency counsel. Those people who go in and fight on behalf of these children, they are terribly overworked and terribly undercompensated. And every time we try to put money in the budget for these people, who, by the way, are overwhelmingly female, that money gets deleted out of the budget. And it's a source of great frustration. And, these are the people who are supposed to advocate for these children in a court setting. So that being said, it might be a roundabout answer. There's no perfect resolution, but I believe this is a priority, and it's one that we should require and consider, and do it in a way. And that's why we've been working, I think, very diligently to come to an accommodation. There is no perfect solution here, but I think it's an important one.
Thank you.
Senator, Member. Sorry.
Yes.
Just to answer your question, I think it's a very good question. From our social workers' perspective, I think that's our premise. We want to deal with the best interests of the child and do what's in the best interest of the child. The reality is the way that this bill is crafted, Assembly Member, we would literally have to do an assessment with every family member that came in, unless we as a social worker seen something in that family member, which is troubling within itself, that made us say, I'm not going to do the assessment for you or him. The problem is that under 50 cases today, what work are we going to skip to do that assessment? In a grand scheme of it, in the perfect world, we would get the funding and we would be able to do all of it. The reality is right now this bill is not Keith's fiscal for the first time in its existence. Every iteration of the bill proposed before has been Keith fiscal except for this one. So I don't even have the ability to go into your fiscal committee and argue for the needs of the social worker and the workload impact, because this is where it stops. So we fear that in the interest of the best, trying to do what's best for the child, that we actually can be doing the reverse and hurting the child, because regardless of what we say today, we're going to have to leave something on the table to go address this assessment that we may in our expertise know from the front end is not in the best interest of the child. So I think there is a huge workload concern that we're very, very deeply concerned about and worried about what's going to fall into the cracks to achieve it.
And if I might just add, that's exactly the opposite of what we've been working to accomplish with this bill. I think that there may be a misinterpretation, but because the goal is not to just require in every circumstance. We've been spending months trying to resolve that issue. If the word may is the source of that concern, it may not be 100%, but it certainly should take away, as they indicated, that means every situation they have to look at. That's not at all what we're intending, and I would be happy to remove the word may.
I think the thought was that putting may in, working with the judiciary staff, was that should alleviate the county's concern, because it's it's more permissive, but it doesn't seem that has happened. So we're not going to actually rewrite the bill here, and we're not appropriations, unfortunately. And the reason I understand that was not keyed fiscal is that it is understood that this is already the county's responsibility, that this is not an additional one. So that's the Legislative Council's opinion. That's why it was not keyed fiscal, because their interpretation was this responsibility already lies with the county. So we can, our debate of that will have no impact, I don't think, at this point, on that ruling, because it isn't going to appropriations, and we are not an appropriations committee. So I think that, just for point of clarification, it was talking about being disruptive to children and them just being moved around. The goal here, and I think we all understand it, is it's about placement with the best relative. It doesn't just mean that someone's going to show up and it's like, oh, well, now we're going to move you. It's saying they have to be evaluated and that the best will then be chosen. And that is in the interest of the child. So it is not just any relative coming means that the child's going to be placed. There's definitely within this bill what is currently in place, and that is the suitability and the success of the child is what is always going to be the determining factor, not the fact that someone else showed up and said, I'm related.
Correct.
So I think we need to make sure that that's clarified as well. So other questions, or we'll wrap it up, or we'll let you have a closing statement. Mr. Cooley.
Well, I just want to note that my colleague from Monterey Bay, who chairs the Judiciary Committee, has a keen interest in the subject matter of this bill. Foster kids, foster youth, has one of the key bills this session. So I think I'm inclined to agree with your analysis that the underlying issue is the kids, and there's probably capacity in the statute and existing law to get this worked out. I think at any point, if you have a caring relative who appears to be the best person on the horizon to care for that child, there may be transition, but that's still fundamentally long-term. With whom do they have companionship in a caring environment is the most curative thing I think we can imagine. We've heard about trauma today. It's like, how do you work those things out? And finding a caring setting to grow up in would seem to be the foremost tonic.
Yes. Thank you. Closing statement?
Very briefly, I appreciate the work that's been done on this bill. I also happen to believe, reading the seminal case on this, that is the law. The court, I think it was the 4th District, made it clear in its directive. There's some dispute whether that only applies to the 4th District, but I think that is what this bill tries to do, is just to confirm that is the approach that should be taken. Again, I would appreciate your support in this bill. I think we can make it work. We've come 95%, 90% of the way. At this point, I really think that we have an opportunity to help these children with this measure, and would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion? We have a motion and a second for Mr. Cooley. Take the roll.
Ready. Bonilla?
Aye.
Bonilla, aye. Grove? Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Lopez? Aye. Lopez, aye. Mainshine? Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Cooley? Aye. Cooley, aye. And the bill is out.
The bill is out. Thank you very much. We will leave the roll open for members to add on. Well, before we really wrap it up, I want to thank our committee consultants for their extraordinarily wonderful service, and to Human Services. And I have not been chair very long, but in my brief tenure, it's really been a pleasure to work with both of you. Thank you. And we'll now continue to add on. Thank you.
Okay, on the consent calendar, item number 2, SB 942, Liu. Item number 5, SB 1060, Leno. Item number 7, SB 1232, Leno, do pass as amended to appropriations. Recommend consent. Item number 10, SB 1427, Pavley, do pass as amended. Recommend consent. Mainshine. Mainshine, aye. Stone. Aye. Stone, aye. Okay. Item number 3, SB 947, Pan, do pass as amended to appropriations. Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye.
You have to do item number 1, 906.
Did I pass item 1? I'm sorry, I missed one. Item number 1, SB 906, Bell. Aye. Mainshine, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Item number 4, SB 982, McGuire. Lopez? Aye. Lopez, aye. Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Item number 6, SB 1226, Senator Bell. Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Item number 9, Senator Monning, SB 1339, Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye.
Item number 8, 1336.
Did I pass that one too?
Yes.
I am just having a good day today.
Oh.
Mainshine not voting. Item number 11, SB 1466, Mitchell. Mainshine. Aye. Mainshine, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. And that's it. Thank you.